On the morning of June 18th, 1982, a postal worker crossing Blackfriars Bridge in London looked down. He was 62 years old, wearing an expensive gray suit, no shoes. In his pockets, bricks, chunks of concrete, and bundles of cash. Inside his jacket, a forged passport, a fake name, a fake identity. His real name was Roberto Calvi, and before he died, he had been trusted with the financial secrets of three of the most powerful and dangerous institutions in the world: the Vatican, the Mafia, and a secret Masonic lodge that had infiltrated the highest levels of the Italian state. Roberto Calvi did not come from crime. He came from ambition. Born in Milan in 1920, he rose through the ranks of Banco Ambrosiano, a conservative Catholic bank founded in 1896 to serve the faithful middle class. By the 1970s, Calvi was its chairman, and under his leadership, Banco Ambrosiano had become Italy's largest private bank, exceeding $20 billion. He was respected. He was powerful. Politicians sought his counsel. Newspapers celebrated him. His friends called him a genius. Journalists had a different name for him. They called him God's banker, because Roberto Calvi had done something that no one had done before and that very few people believed was even possible. He had made the Vatican his business partner. The Institute for Religious Works, the Vatican Bank, became the single largest shareholder in Banco Ambrosiano, an Italian private bank, a Catholic institution, and the financial arm of the Holy See, all under the control of one man. On the surface, it looked like a story of faith meeting finance. Beneath the surface, it was something far more sinister. Roberto Calvi was a member of Propaganda 2. P2, as it was known, was a secret Masonic lodge and one of the most dangerous organizations in post-war Italy. Its membership list, discovered during a police raid in 1981, included cabinet ministers, military generals, judges, newspaper editors, and intelligence officers. It was not a club for philosophers and idealists. It was a shadow government, and Calvi was one of its most valuable assets. Because Calvi had money, not just his own money, not just the bank's money, he had the Vatican's money, and he had the Mafia's money. Through a labyrinth of shell companies in Panama, the Bahamas, and Luxembourg, jurisdictions chosen specifically because they had no obligation to report anything to anyone, Calvi moved funds. He inflated share prices. He hid losses. He secured loans that could never be repaid. By 1978, the Bank of Italy had already written a report warning that Banco Ambrosiano was heading toward disaster. The magistrate assigned to investigate the case was killed by a terrorist group shortly afterward. The Bank of Italy official who supervised the report was arrested on charges that were later dismissed. The investigation quietly disappeared, and Calvi continued. But by 1982, there was nowhere left to run. The bank's books had a hole that could no longer be hidden. $1,287 million. Gone. Calvi was convicted of illegally exporting currency from Italy. 4 years suspended, a fine of nearly $20 million. He was briefly imprisoned. While in prison, he attempted to take his own life. He survived. He was released on bail and returned to his desk at the bank, but the walls were closing in. In June of 1982, investigators began to unravel the full scale of what had happened. Calvi shaved off his mustache, obtained a forged passport under a false name, and fled Italy by private plane. His personal secretary, Graziella Corrocher, did not flee with him. She left a note denouncing everything Calvi had done. Then she fell from the fifth-floor window of the Banco Ambrosiano headquarters in Milan. What investigators later established is this: Roberto Calvi was likely strangled elsewhere. P2 members were known within the lodge as the Blackfriars. The message, investigators believed, was deliberate. The Italian press asked the question directly. Their headline read, "An inquest jury disagreed. Open verdict." In 2002, 20 years after his death, a second inquest ruled it murder. 5 people were eventually indicted. The charges alleged that Calvi had been killed to prevent him from using his knowledge as blackmail against the P2 Lodge, against the Vatican Bank, and against the Sicilian Mafia, whose money he had helped launder and then lost. The trial lasted years. In 2010, all 5 defendants were acquitted. Not enough evidence. Roberto Calvi's son still believes his father was murdered. He believes someone gave the order. He believes that someone was never charged. Graziella Corrocher's family has never accepted that she jumped willingly. The Vatican Bank quietly paid $240 million to Ambrosiano's creditors, not as an admission of guilt, but as, in their words, a recognition of moral involvement. $1,287 million vanished through a network of shell companies that touched the Vatican, the Mafia, and a secret lodge that had infiltrated the Italian state. No one was convicted. In London, barefoot, weighted down with bricks, in a suit that still had his wallet in the pocket. If this story made you feel like something is deeply, fundamentally wrong with how power works, you're right. Subscribe to Dirty Ledger, because this is just the beginning.